Welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Bass the Kid. As always, please like and subscribe. If you have a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between, it's appreciated. Apologies, there was not a casual stream this week. There was supposed to be. A couple of things happened where I just needed to take a bit of time just to rest and relax and some other bits and pieces, and I needed to decompress. So yeah, there will be some streams over the weekend. As you guys can see, I'm in my regular habitat, which means I am not in Birmingham for the Edwards versus your fire card, but yeah, we will make the most of that time. And I'll give you further details on that later on this week. There might even be a stream tomorrow evening. There's also going to be some bass talks and stuff, but yeah, I'll get into all of that in a little bit. But there is some things to talk about, so without further ado, let's get into it. So I guess the first thing to address is that it is no longer Derek Chisora versus Jarrell Miller in Manchester in February. It's now actually Derek Chisora versus Otto Wallin. Now, this came out of left field. I don't think anyone predicted this. It had been long since rumored that it would be Jarrell Miller, but then even if it wasn't going to be him, you would have figured it would be someone of a similar type, like someone that's, you know, gonna be standing in the middle of the ring and just sort of banging away, a bit like a Carlos Takam or someone of that ilk. Otto Wallin came out of left field. When I got the poster for that sent to me via email, I was like, whoa, okay, I wasn't expecting this. And I'm like, what's going on here? This isn't what we was told. Like, did they give us the old bait and switch? Then I go on to socials and then I see Jarrell Miller is basically cussing out Dimitri Salita yet again, you know, saying how he's a dirty guy. He's like one of the dirtiest individuals I've ever met in my life. And then I'm there thinking, pot calling kettle black. But I digress, because each individual situation is different and it should be treated as such. But yeah, and then apparently Dimitri Salita had a first and last on his contract with Jarrell Miller. So even though his fight contract is over, he had the options to be able to not veto a fight, but be able to match it. So whatever he was being offered in this particular instance now means that Dimitri Salita has to offer him a fight of equal or better value moving forward. And that's basically how it works. I don't know if he can do that. Now, I don't know what Jarrell was being paid, but I can assume it was at least £600,000. I would assume it's at least that. And can Dimitri get him a fight worth that same amount of money? And he would have to do it in a very similar time frame as well, because that's how a first and last works. If you have to, I think it has to be within 60 days of whenever the initial offer fight was scheduled. So I guess we're gonna have to wait and see, but Jarrell Miller is not happy about that. But outside of that, look, Otto Wallin, this is actually, both of these fights are difficult for Chisora. The Miller fight was difficult because Chisora ain't got the power to knock Miller out. He can maybe get a decision, but I don't even know if he could out-decision Miller. But there's ways that you can see that he wins that, because Miller will be in front of him. He will be there to be hit. And it's literally, you know, both guys moving forward until the time when Chisora gets tired and then just has to lay and sit on the ropes for the last 3-4 rounds of the fight and just basically throw big counter shots. Could he get away with that in Manchester? Probably. But Otto Wallin is a totally different kettle of fish, because while Otto probably won't have the snap and the sting to really hurt Chisora like that as such, he definitely obviously can make him feel those shots. But outside of that, he's a much better mover. He's got better feet. he can trap Chisora, sort of, you know, move him around the ring, make him have to use those, at the time the fight takes place, it will be those 40-year-old legs. So yeah, it's a much harder task, because Chisora's gonna have to chase him. It's gonna be very similar to Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, where, you know, every time Chisora feels like he's in range, like, yeah, the movement. So Chisora's best bet in this fight is to make sure that it's like an 18 by 18 ring. If it's anything bigger than that, I don't like his chances, if I'm gonna be honest with you. But he's gonna have to try and break Otto's will. I don't know if he hits hard enough to do that. But I mean, look, Murat Gassiev was a similar-ish style to Chisora, and, you know, Wallin dealt with that quite comfortably. So I don't know how Derek gets it done, but I might have to go to support him on this one occasion. He's not one of my favorites, but it's a trip to Manny. It's the last time. Yeah, I might do. We'll wait and see. But yeah, look, that's the news. The bait and switch happened. Wallin versus Chisora. Let me know what you guys think of that one down below. So a couple of days ago on his Substack newsletter, Dan Rafael broke news that he had heard what the card is expected to be for February, for the 22nd of February in Saudi Arabia. And yeah, well, let's go through the fights that are supposedly taking place on this card. So it's Daniel Dubois against Joseph Parker. Then it's supposed to be the Artur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol 2 rematch. There's also supposed to be Jaron Boots Ennis versus Virgil Ortiz Jr. There is then supposed to be Zhang Zhile versus Ajit Kabayel, and it's supposed to be, I guess they're gonna say, Hamza Shiraz versus Carlos Adames, even though Adames is the champion. But that's supposed to be the card, and possibly Shakur Stevenson against Floyd Schofield for his what belts he got for his WBC. Yeah, for his WBC lightweight title. So if that is the cards, I will have to admit that is probably the best card of my generation, if you want to say that. Definitely the best card of the last 25 years. From, you know, we're looking at, you know, the 2000s, from when they started up until now. Yep, historically, in the 90s, like the late 80s, the early 90s, some of those Don King cards, they may be better by comparison, even though if you go back to some of those cards and you was to look on BoxRec, it might say, oh, this fight was only a 3-star or this was a 2-star. But at the time when the fight was announced and when the fight was made, you're like, no. If you was judging it fairly, it was like a 4-star fight, or 3.5, 4-star, some of them even 5-star. They were all like world title fights, just back to back on there. But that's what the rumored card is supposed to be. The only one that they didn't confirm was Shakur Stevenson against Floyd Schofield. Obviously that was supposed to be William Zepeda initially, but yeah, we can talk about that William Zepeda thing maybe in a different show. Now, the interesting thing about that card, because I got one part of that wrong, because I believed that the reason Ajit Kabayel would turn down the Bakole final eliminator was because he would probably get the direct shot to Daniel Dubois. Cheaper opponent, someone that you feel that you can deal with, you know, smaller than you, so that you can kind of get the measure of. But it's someone that is now known because they've done a couple of fights on these Riyadh season cards. They've beat some very credible people. Plus, they were supposed to face Tyson Fury several years back, so people knew the name. And they've got a victory over Derek Chisora. So you would think that that would be a viable step. And then I figured Joseph Parker would end up maybe with something else. But, you know, people have said Parker deserves the shot, which I agree. He does deserve it. It's just whether or not he was going to get it at this time. But the interesting thing is, obviously, so you've got Ajit Kabayel and Zhang Zhilei facing each other after both of them were supposed to have been taking on Martin Bakole in a final eliminator for the IBF. Both turned it down. Now, initially, you will say, sounds like duck talk, that sounds like a lot of quacking. But both have come out, well, one's definitely, Ajit Kabayel has come out on socials and basically said that the reason the fight didn't get made is because Martin Bakole was asking for too much money. Now, initially, I'm assuming that this would have been outside of Riyadh season, because if he's asking for too much money, he's probably not negotiating with His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh. And that would make sense, because he did say in a previous conversation, you know, oh, please, Turkey, don't allow these guys to run, like, please bid for the fight or whatever. So if that's the case, it would then say, okay, well, if they were doing up, you know, negotiations, then that ultimately means that they were trying to do it on a boxer show or something like that. Or they were trying to maybe do it on a different show, but he was pricing himself out to a point where you don't generate the kind of money you're asking for. So the only person who could do it is Turkey. And that was an interesting thought. And then when the same thing has happened to Zhang Zhilei, apparently he said the same thing. Team's very difficult to deal with. They're asking for unreasonable money. Like, that must also mean that between like the Boxer and Queensberry lot, they couldn't get that done because there's too much money being expected. So the question is, if that's the case, is Martin Bakole overestimating his value? Which I guess a lot of people do now that they're on Riyadh cards. Is he asking for too much money knowing that this can't be generated? And then also, if he's overpricing himself, then is that in fact a duck on their side, or is that a way for him to keep up the mystique of being avoided and being the boogeyman and no one wants to fight me? Like, if you're asking for money you know is not going to be generated on this card unless it's Turki Al-Sheikh, and you know you don't necessarily have it in like that. You're not one of the regulars that are on these shows. I don't know, because there's been what, about 7 Riyadh season cards thus far, maybe 8 in the last year and a bit altogether. Bakole's been on 2 of them. Kabayel, this will be his 3rd one, but he obviously came in 2 times and upset the apple cart, but was entertaining in both times. Like, Zhang's been on, has he been on 1? I think he's only on the Parker one. Yeah, he's only on the Parker show. So, but these are guys that they know it's guaranteed action, but they're going to take the fights they want them to take. Whereas Bakole, I don't know, it's like everyone says, oh, he hasn't got this profile, and to be honest, he doesn't have a great profile, but he's known to boxing people. But again, if you're there overestimating your value, thinking that you are worth more money than you are, or asking for a lot more money than you can generate, yeah, I can't really then say it's wrong on the other person's side if, you know, if they then turn it down, especially if they then get to fight each other on a Riyadh season card, and they're both probably going to make more than you make in your mandatory, your next mandatory challenge, your final eliminator. So yeah, I mean, is it the path of least resistance for both of them to each other? Possibly. You know, maybe I do have to look at it a little bit in the sense of when Anthony Joshua was king of the division, and then Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury basically made their pact to fight each other, to build their own profiles and to try and freeze him out. Obviously it didn't work, but they did both build their profiles quite massively off of each other. And maybe Caballero and Zhang are doing something similar. That is a possibility, freezing out Bakole. And I also have to look at it and think, well, if it's because it's Bakole is signed with who? Boxer. Boxer had a bit of a mare on the very last Riyadh season card. Bakole is like the last person that they've really got that they can bring to the table. Is it maybe just a case that they don't like the way that Boxer do business, and so because of that, like, that one person has to suffer or has to go his own route until he gets himself into a mandatory position? That also could be a possibility. At this point, I'm not ruling anything out. So while I do say there looks like there is a lot of essence of duck in the air, very aromatic as well, it could be other things, because it's weird that the two guys that you would both go down the rankings for the final eliminator both end up fighting each other instead. But yeah, outside of that, that's kind of where I'm gonna leave that one there. Yes, Martin Bakole was probably a bit hard done by there. Maybe he has just been, you know, pushed out in the wilderness, king of the who needs him club. But he may, like I said, there may be a potential here that he's actually creating his own problems. And if that's the case, I can't have too much sympathy for him. I'm gonna have to wait for more of this story to unfold down the line. But that being said, shame. The rest of the card though, amazing. I haven't even spoken about it. Look, Parker and Dubois is a very, very credible fight. It's definitely not an easier fight. It's not a cherry pick. It's not a gimme fight. It's not, you know, that is, Parker is, you know, he's on a resurgence. He's earned his shot to become a two-time heavyweight champion. Daniel Dubois is on a mad downwards snowball. Like that snowball is building momentum after momentum. So if you don't stop that now, you may never stop that. Carlos Adames and Hamza Shiraz is very interesting. I mean, look, if we get Better Beef and Bivol 2 on there as well, yeah, look, there's just firefight after firefight, technical brilliance. Like, there's a bit of, you know, there's a bit of murderous intent on this card as well. There's just a lot, you know. And even if you have Shakur Stevenson and Floyd Schofield on there, I guarantee that fight in itself won't be a quote-unquote boring fight if it was to take place. So there will literally be no fight on this card where, even if they all go 12 rounds, none will be a stinker. The Shakur fight would probably be the most lopsided one in terms of odds, if I'm honest. Because Schofield, obviously, is number 2 in the WBA rankings, I think. But he's not, you know, he hasn't had the necessary experience fights up at the top level. So that would be the one you'd probably say was the most lopsided in terms of like betting odds, if you was going to do it that way. But all the others are very, you know, they're 55, 45, 60, 40s at absolute. Well, okay, they might give Hamza Shiraz and Adames maybe like a 65, 35 because they don't know a lot about Adames. But yeah, like it's a highly competitive card, and it might be one, if it does end up being that and gets made, I will find the funds from somewhere to go out there because I need to see that one. That being said, Turkey did put out a post and he said, I've not confirmed anything. Don't believe anything until you see it come from me. But I promise you guys, big night with the biggest cards and have you all in my heart, is what he said. So that maybe means that some of the fights that have been spoken about are not true, or it just means that, yeah, that might be the truth, but don't get too big for yourself until I'm ready to announce what we're doing. Because Frank Warren does that a lot of time as well. We know what the fights are, but he says until it's announced, I'm not saying anything. So Turkey might be doing the same thing. But yeah, if that is the card, stacked. And we don't use that word often, or I don't, but stacked. And I guess to round this video off, since we're talking about Martin Bakole and, you know, Caballero and Zhang facing each other instead of him, well, he's now been the next person down the line in order to face him is Efe Ajagba, who I believe at the moment is 20-1. Now, Efe's got some good qualities, and I'm interested. If this fight gets made, I'm of no doubt that Bakole can get this one done, because Efe can't move for the entire duration of the 12 rounds. But Efe he's got a much longer reach than what Bakole has. Well, okay, yeah, I'll say much longer, because at one point his reach was judged at like 85 inches, but I think it's gone down to like 82, whereas I think Bakole is a 77, 78, somewhere around there. Efe is slightly taller of the two, more nimble, so if he can box from the outside and try to keep Bakole either stationary or keep Bakole having to use his legs and walk to him, then he can maybe do something. Because one thing Efe does have, he does have power in the jab, in the backhand. He can hurt you with shots, and he does know how to fight from distance and keep the shots long. But if at any point he falls in to the mid-range or the inside, that's where the problem comes, because Bakole's got very fast hands when it comes to ripping to the body and then ripping back up to the head. Sometimes it's very hard to defend both. Carlos Takam tried, and when Bakole manages to get that body attack going, it's not nice work. Jared Anderson found that out for himself when he thought that he could just stay on the inside, stay and trade with Bakole on the inside. Now, it did look like in rounds 3 and 4 of that fight with Jared Anderson, some of that body work that Anderson was doing did start to have it looked like it had a bit of an effect. There was a couple times when he took shots up top, Bakole, it didn't look as comfortable as he did in the first round when it was happening. So if Ajagba can stay consistent on the outside, make Bakole have to move, and then just try to break him down that way and just stay safe and be able to box on the outside, maybe to try to take the fight late, he's got a better chance of winning the fight. But yeah, if he stands anywhere close to mid-range or on the inside, I just think he'll get mauled. But it's an interesting fight, and at this point in time, he ain't got any other options going. So if this is his opportunity to be next in line for the IBF title, which he knows will be called, he knows a mandatory will get called, they don't play about. This Efe Ajagba might take it. I mean, he hasn't been invited to Riyadh yet, so he ain't seen the kind of money they're seeing. Maybe this is the option, and you do the fight in the UK. You come over, or you do it, if maybe you can even get a site somewhere in Nigeria if you want, do it there. Or if the Congo have got anything, you do it there. However you get it done, I suppose. But yeah, if it happens, I'll be interested to watch it. Even though I feel like I know how it will play out, there's enough intrigue and scenarios where it can be a different thing that I am willing to see how it does play. But yeah, for now, let me leave it there. Thank you guys for watching. I might do an additional video a little bit later on today. Like I said, there'll be some base talks tomorrow, probably early afternoon, that will come out. Basis picks will come out. There may be another video on Saturday. There will be at least one live stream on Saturday. It probably won't be for the boxing though, unless it's just for the main event, if I'm home in time, because I will be getting out somewhere. But if I get home in time, we'll do the main event, but there's going to be another stream which I'll tell you guys about in the community tab. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I'll catch you next time. Until then, it's the Hardcore Casual out.